pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Sure, everybody. There's a couple up here if you want to sit there, or you can take a hot seat with Dirk. He's always looking for a friend.
Yeah.
First on the agenda, we got Dirk Rogers, the highway superintendent, right away for Northern Electric, and the 5-year highway bridge plan. What do we got going on, Dirk?
Do you want to do the right-of-way first?
Yeah.
The right-of-way, I brought in some stuff last week for Northern Electric to install some gas monitoring equipment down by Neon. This right-of-way is for Northern Electric to run electricity to it. So it's just standard stuff. There's no problem. They're just going to bore under the road and over to where that equipment is.
I'll move approval.
Moved by Sutton,
Second.
seconded by Feldheim. Any discussion?
Very good, man. I brought
All in
everything
favor,
today
say
by
aye.
hand.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right, and then I'll start on the 5-year plan presentation. This is part of the requirements associated with getting bridge funding for the big program. It's also a good idea to get an opportunity to communicate a little bit with everybody about what the county's plans are going forward. Now there's, in what I'm going to talk about today, when I'm talking about what's listed on the handout I gave you, as well as what I'm going to show you on the next 5 years of maps, we define what our projects are. And what a project is in Brown County might not be the same in other counties. So the things that I record for the sake of this 5-year plan as projects are substantial overlays that are 2-inch overlays or more, and bridges. Chip sealing, doing blotter work, regular culvert maintenance, stuff like that is not show up in the 5-year plan. Now, since we're all here having such a good time, I am going to talk about all that stuff that we're going to do in 2018 with a little more detail. But first thing I'm going to go through is our 5-year plan for upcoming projects, and again, these are all going to be 2-inch overlays or bridges or something that exceeds that. Just because the road you're interested in doesn't show up on this 5-year project list doesn't mean that we're not doing any work there. So we'll just jump into this other handout. Everybody that wants one, get one. On the first page of that, we've got some estimated revenues, and obviously as you reach out 5 years, it's estimated. So I started with a couple years ago, and we tweak it a little bit each year going forward. You can see the motor V and the wheel tax is flatlined unless more changes come or you guys change how we're doing the wheel tax or something like that. The general funds increase a little bit, and then in the grant money that we could potentially get from the state, this is how they want us to do it. For instance, that in 2020 I have $800,000 in there. That's for the bridge north of Columbia. That hasn't been awarded, but I'm anticipating that by 2020 it will be, and that's how you have to do this projection for them. In 2018 you see $800,000 there for big construction. That's already been awarded to us. That's for the bridge by the Hall Pit that we'll be doing in 2018. The 400 is our federal money that the state takes and gives us $400,000 in state money, so it doesn't have the federal requirements with it. And also there's a infrastructure improvement grant, the $308,000. That's the work that's associated with the turning lanes and stuff for the bean processing plant. So you can see it's pretty straightforward. In 2020, they're also, as we sit right now, going to be using Road 9 up here for a detour. And that's gonna be the state that does that, so that shows up as $1 million in 2020 as overlay for the bridge detour.
Does that even pass through us, or does it stay?
The state will, I'm not sure quite how that'll happen. We haven't had a detour with that large amount of money before. They did the same thing in Groton, and it doesn't really pass through us. They'll just pay the bill. I show it up here because it's accounting for one of the things that I have in my 5-year plan, which is the overlay on Road 9, which ironically coincidentally was gonna happen that same year, only not the whole thing. We were gonna do part of it, but with the advent of this construction project and the opportunity for them to use it as a detour, that's why I have it in there, more because that's a road I have in the 5-year plan. From a financial standpoint, we won't even see it, we won't have to account for it. But it's work that will be done on the county system. For the sake of this sheet, I have to show it in there.
And that's a 2-inch overlay?
Yeah.
On the whole 11 miles?
Yeah, it's the whole thing, I think
Okay.
it's 10.
Where's that at?
Right here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah, it's from 281, and it'll go over here to the Watonka Road and go up. They're gonna be replacing 2 bridges up here in, I think, 2020. So they're gonna use that as a detour. So that's not some high level accounting here, but is there any questions over these numbers? If there's not, we'll go to the next page, and we'll refer to the 5-year map over here at the same time. These should sync up, or otherwise the state's gonna send it back to me and tell me to fix it, so, Larry, I'm gonna stand in front of you just because you can call me and ask me all this great stuff anytime you want, so. The, first thing on there, we got, in 2018, it's the red stuff up here. 78, so this first one I have on here is the one over here. I think, am I looking at that right? 378, yeah. That's the road going out to Road 6 from 281. And then these 2 miles, we're gonna wait. They're not too bad as right now. And then jump over and do this other mile from the state park over to Road 13A. I'll run through each year, and then if you have comments or questions, we can cover them. Down here, we're going to do something that's called a cold in-place recycle. We haven't tried one before. It's a process I went and looked at a couple of times, and it's pretty economical. It's about 1/3 of the cost of overlaying that, and because of the type of depressed cracks that we have in that road, and if anybody's driven from Warner over to Strat, that's a bumpy one. So what that'll do is mill up what's there and relay it all at the same time.
Add oil with it while you're laying it?
Yep, you got a mill in the front, throws it into a mobile pug mill, gets oil added in, there's a little crusher on there that'll size it, and then it just comes out of there, goes to paver, and they lay it back down, and then when we're done, we'll have to probably put a chip seal on it. But there's not a lot of roads that have enough asphalt on them to do that process. I mean, it'd be great to be able to do it everywhere, but a lot of them, you have to have a certain situation in order for it to work. And that's a location that there's, in the cores we've done, there wasn't anything less than 5 inches that were on that road, so it's a good candidate for it.
Do they take all 5 inches?
They have to leave enough for the mill and stuff to sit on, so you leave about 1 inch on the bottom. I guess if that train falls through, it's quite a bugger getting it back out of there, so. And then this one up here is an overlay going from 37 over to 16. I actually have that mile at the Putney Slough colored in, but that'll get skipped over. It's in good shape. They're doing this road, the state's doing this road this year, so I'm hoping we can get a hold of this contractor and get a bid from them. We should get a little nicer number on that. But that's kind of part of that. Other than that, it needs it. That's getting done this year because of the project that'll be going on 37. Bridge 425, that's the one at the Hall Pit. The thing's been posted since forever. I was in high school the first time that thing got posted. and it's finally run through everything, and we had to up our match on that to 50%. You know, the minimum match, or the smallest amount of match you could put into something and qualify would be 20%. We're paying 50, and that made it qualify. If we hadn't upped that other $600,000 to pay for our portion of the bridge, we wouldn't have got awarded the grant because of the way the point system works. So that's about $800,000 state money or federal bridge money, and $800,000 of local money to do that one, and we're going to do it this year in 18. Landfill Road, we milled that up this year. We're letting it sit. We'll probably do a little work on it in the spring, and then I hope to put a 4-inch overlay on it next year. Road 16, what is that? Oh, these 3 miles finally. This got bumped back to next year because I used the asphalt over here on 14 last year. So that got pushed back again, but that's in here for next year. That's going to be a 4-inch overlay. Should be pretty straightforward, and then we'll have a pretty decent route going from Frederick to Hecla. It's not perfect, but it's getting better. West Bridge at Richmond, doing that with local money. That's about $400 for the bridge and $400,000 for the accompanying grade raise to accommodate the bridge. And then the last thing I got on here in 2018 are the projects. These are actually over here by Dave. These are all the locations for the projects and stuff we're doing associated with the bean processors plant, and that's about $616,000. $308,000 is coming from that governor's office infrastructure grant, and the other $308 will be local money. There is one thing, I'll come back to it when we talk about 18 specifically on maintenance. So those are our major projects for 18. Any questions? Flip the page over then, we'll keep going. In 19, so on this map we're going to go to the yellow now, I believe. Yep. So just a few things on here. Road 11, once the bridge is done, then we'll be able to straighten up the rest of this. I don't know that all 10 miles are going to get paved, but probably 7 or 8 out of it, guessing by the way it looks right now. And this intersection, when we come out of this bridge project and open the road back up, we're going to switch the stop signs around here so that the east-west road is going to be the through road and the north-south is going to have stop signs. Eventually, before anybody asks, eventually we're going to do the same thing at Prairie Wood, but I don't want to talk about that right now. 14E, around here on the east side of Aberdeen. Do 4 miles overlay on the asphalt that's currently there. 23 down here. I've got the whole thing on there. Again, we just did 1.25 miles over here, and there's, I think, maybe 1 more mile over here that won't get it, but for the most part, all of it will get it. And part of that might get bumped up. There's a real bad piece in here by Road 18 that I don't know is going to survive 2 more years. We'll probably have to go in there and do a little something to get it down the road a little further. Road 13, oh, it's Prairie Wood. Again, we're going to have to do some rut filling on that in the spring regardless. We're going to have a little maintenance on it, but I'm hoping, and that might even get bumped up too depending on some costs and a few other things, but for right now I have it in there for 19, and that's the overlay that from 281 over to 14. Bridges I have in there for 19 is, or the bridge I have in there for 19 is this Bridge 1 down here. It's posted, it's old, and it's not eligible for the bridge program. So that one will probably be done at this time. I'm looking at doing it with local money. It'll be about $1 million. And I don't know, it's just a bridge down there on a paved county road that's posted, and it's going to be probably 6 or 8 years before it even be able to start through the process with the bridge program on it, so. And I'll talk about a couple of those a little more here. Jumping up, anything about 19 that anybody's got a question about?
Can you point out that bridge one again? Thank you.
From the county line, half mile from Buck County or Edmonds or however you want to count it down there. Okay, jumping ahead then to 2020. That's when I'm hoping this bridge is eligible up here, one north of Columbia. We've already been through the TS&L. I mean, it's as far as we can go with it. Now we're just sitting there waiting for it to get bad enough to qualify. I've got that in there. We've already got estimates on it and everything. And so that's, a matter of fact, it's almost identical in construction to the one at the Hall Pit. Road 5 up here, it's in 2020 to overlay all that. Road 16, this is another one. This south part of this, I don't think is going to make it until 2020, so we're probably going to have to do something with these south couple miles. And then as a sidebar, I am going to look into getting a federal land access grant that would, this 16 would qualify because of the refuge. So, I don't want to sit, I'd love to submit a project for the 21 miles to get up to the front door of the refuge, but whether or not they would fund that whole thing, I don't know. It's like anything, there's $7 million available, and we'd be asking nationwide, and we'd be asking for, $2 million of it, but I'm going to pursue it, or at least see if we can get part of that funded. Road 9 again, I was just talking about that. That's in association with the detour. And Road 5. A good road from Frederick to Hecla was a recommendation in the 2012 transportation study that you guys did, and so that's kind of where we've been spending some money on 5 and on that bridge to make it from Frederick to Hecla. And Bridge 211. Okay. That's this one right here. It's on the township system, and I have to double check my other list. That one might actually qualify for the bridge program. So if it does, we'll run it through that. Otherwise, it'll be about $1 million, $950,000 to replace it.
Which township were you pointing at?
This one right north of Frederick.
Gotcha, thanks.
We flip over. 2021. I've got an overlay going north of Claremont. That's that one, and when I come to this one, these are roads where we went back, we did a quickie job, we tried to get them decent to get us by for a few years, and now we're going to be coming back. Now, albeit this is 4 years from now, but these are going to start showing up where we just worked on them recently to salvage them for a while, and then come back and do more aggressive things on them, and at least that's what I'm hoping to happen. But that's this one north of Columbia. Right north of town, starting at Fairgrounds Road, going 3 miles north of where the gravel starts. And this whole thing down here, which miraculously this side is always held up, and it doesn't make any sense, but it seems to survive in pretty good shape. This over here gets beat up a little more, and Mansfield Elevator hauls a lot of stuff down to that station by across from Evergreen Colony down there off of 20 and 47. So there's a lot of traffic that goes back and forth on the county line on this side. 45, I'm sorry. 7, Bridge 206. That's the one up here in Elm Lake. Right by the resort? Yep, and that one actually qualifies for funding right now. However, it points out really low. That the bridge that we got awarded last year on their point system was a 48, okay? This right now is a 19. And when I listened to the Transportation Commission last year when they were awarding these, somebody had submitted one that came in at 18 and had applied for a grant. Well, they only funded 7 of them for replacements, and we were about in the middle at 48. So what my point is, it's going to be a long time before that bridge is ever going to get up high enough to get funded. So this is the same boat we're in here. Yeah, it meets all the criteria, but when you stack it up against the rest of them, because this isn't posted, it doesn't score out very well for getting awarded. Now, whether or not I have it in here as, yeah, I have it in here as us paying for the whole bill, but by that time, we might submit it. And then the last 4 things on here in 2022 are all overlays, and obviously when you're reaching out that far, there's plenty of time for other roads to pass them up for their condition, but that's the blue stuff. East of Fernie, the Lake Road, whatever part of this, if we don't get it, the rest of it funded on 16 north at Tacoma Park up to 10, and 23 west of Warner. So, that's the outline of the major stuff we're looking at in the next 5 years.
All right, any questions or concerns for Dirk? I think that's kind of crazy how we went full circle on that 9. You know, 5 years ago that was slated to be milled up, and because of a partnership with the county and those local folks on that road, they pitched in some additional funds and patched that road up, and now the state's going to put an overlay on it for us. That's kind of nice.
Yep.
Anybody in attendance today have any questions or concerns?
Dirk?
Yep.
What about some of the rest of the bridges that I know that are in bad shape? One is north of Hecla there, north of, well, it's used, but is there anything that you're going to try to do with any of those older bridges?
Yep. I tell you what, let's, can we come back to that, because I'm going to do a whole, I got another handout on bridges that I don't know if I have enough for everybody, but I'm going to go into some detail on them.
Okay.
So, and you picked out one of my favorite bridges to use as your example. But as far as the stuff I just brought up, is there anything anyone wants to add or comment or tell me I'm nuts or whatever? Let's look at the last page of this handout and then we'll go to the bridges.
Can we take just a little break from highway plan? Judge Porcher's with us to talk about security, and I know he's got to get back up to the courts here.
Sure.
So, Judge Porcher, come on in. We're going to take a break from bridges, or is now an okay time?
Yeah, it's fine,
Okay.
or I can go to my office and do my other work, and you can let me know when you're ready, however you want to handle it.
Why don't, if you don't mind doing that, yeah, we'll finish
That's fine.
this, and we'll call you here in about 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
Thanks so
I'll be
much
in
for
my
making
office.
time,
Yep, let me
appreciate
know.
it. Touch base in a bit. Okay, carry on, Dirk.
Normally I don't have a problem with not talking fast enough, but apparently today. Look at the back page of this handout that I gave you. There's just a short list of 5 things on there. This is the other thing that's required. We have to show what we did last year off of, you know, the previous 5-year plan. So, we got most of this done. We didn't do all of it. And that's the top thing on there. We started down at 104. What am I pointing at here? I'm on the wrong road. And with there's about 3 miles in there spread out that we didn't do between there and the Columbia Road, but that's why that's on there. County 16, which I didn't even have on the map last year, but the paving on the grade raise project. 16C, which I don't think that's on here either. That's a mile going into Stratford. Bridge 425, technically it was in progress last year, and will continue to be, it'll be finished this year, but that's the bridge at the Hall Pit. And then Bridge 59, which we're doing right now, that's down on 21 between 16 and 18. And they're ripping the deck off it right now. Okay. I don't have, you guys all have one of these, right? You guys do not, you may have to keep one with your neighbor because this took me a lot longer to print out. So I don't have as many. Yeah, it'd be the same way with cookies. If it was cookies, yeah, right. You know, we got. Yeah. You'd have taken two the first time. Got an extra one. Yep. Go ahead. All right, this. Now stick with me here. This is actually a scaled down version. I was trying to print this thing out, and it's about that wide if I'd have printed it out. And there's a whole bunch of data in here that I know that it's pertained to it's some of the evaluation data for the structure's carrying ability, but I didn't think it's going to mean anything to anybody. It doesn't mean a lot to me until you get over to the sufficiency and the deficiency of it. But David, I'm going to try to answer your question and explain the way that I go into this with everybody. If I don't answer your question,
well, it's one of the bridges, and I know you've got other ones in the county too, but that's a good example of one that, you know, what you can do with it.
Exactly. It goes in a special category. So if you look at this, a couple things I want to point out. There's two things that I look at when we're going to try to stick a bridge in there, and when I'm talking, this is specific only from the data standpoint. We'll go out and evaluate the actual effect of the bridge on the people that live around it and that kind of thing. That's one evaluation. But this is just purely the analytical data run through the federal bridge program, and then they come to these conclusions. Okay? So, two things I want to show you first. If you go over about the fourth column from the right, it says it's SUF rate at the top, it's sufficiency rate of the bridge. That first one's at 24.3. Okay, that's just sort of a scale number from 0 to 100. 100's a brand new bridge. 0, it's already fallen in the river by then. Okay? So right off the bat, in order to qualify, you got to be below 60. So if you go down somewhere near the end of where I quit coloring them and look over to the right, you'll see in there is where that happens. Okay? Now the other thing, which I walked face first into this last year, and that's why we have this bridge north of Columbia that's all ready to be bid that isn't eligible right now, is the far right column where it says deficiency. There's got to be an S there. If there's not an S there, it's not going to qualify. And the S stands for that it's structurally deficient. Okay? So if you start looking through these, and on the, so you got to have, you can see the number that we have that are both below 60 and have an S fine. And now to hopefully answer David's question, the colors on your left there, if it's a yellow color, it's either already been replaced or is in the process. Like there's plans made, it's past the point of no return, it's either already been replaced or it's going to be replaced. And the ones that have already been replaced, I've eliminated all the data behind them. So if it says new culverts and then it's blank the rest of the way over on that row, that means we already replaced them. I just erased the data because it doesn't pertain to that anymore. The yellow ones that have the data still there, they're already programmed. I believe that first one would be the first yellow one coming down the list is the Hall Pit Bridge. and so on and so forth, okay? You can forget about the blue ones. They're either closed or there's no structure there anymore. I just haven't got the resolutions run through to take them off our list. They mean nothing. And then the green ones are places that I know we're going to put culverts in there over the next few years. And that's about a real general answer to yours. I will get to your bridge specifically here in a second. Now, there's 2 of them on there. Actually, there's 4 of them on there that have no colors, okay? 346, which is the one David's talking about. 269 is this little, it's a real little box thing sitting over here, like a mile west of Mansfield. At some point, we'll probably take that out and put some pipe in, but it's been posted forever, and until it's a problem, we'll just let it keep aging. 66. 66 is another one. I don't know what we're going to do. It's over the mud, and it's about 110 feet long. It's down here. It's kind of a nice little drive, a little curvy road, and it goes over the old bridge, but...
That's down by Huttersville, right?
Yep. It's, let's see, it's west.
Yeah.
And 17 is right next to Warner, and it's not eligible. Doesn't look like it's going to be eligible. I'm going to have to be very reactionary, because when that one goes posted, it's going to be a huge problem right next to town there.
That's it. Homecoming decorated one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit west of the homecoming decorations,
Okay,
but yeah, it's the one right off the edge of town there. And then that's about it. Now, if you go over here and look at these ones that are eligible, that Bridge 211 is not my first 10 choices to run through the bridge program. We have stuff on the county system that we need worse than that, but that one qualifies. So eventually, we'll probably run it through the bridge program. You know, because it's one of them that is posted, its sufficiency rate is low enough, and it's structurally deficient, so it would qualify. And that's kind of my main gripe about the way the system works is, once a bridge goes posted, it's a problem for us, and the thing might not be eligible for 10 years after that to run through the bridge program, and maybe not even then. Like I said, there's a couple of these that have been posted for like 20 years, and they're not going to be eligible for maybe another 10 to run through the bridge program. And they're expensive, about $10,000 a foot to build a bridge, so I don't know if we'll get to the point where we're going to be really, really hamstrung. Like, for instance, if that Warner Bridge became posted, more posted than it is, you know, would we be able to, in the subsequent year, you know, replace it right away? Or if we're going to have to wait, you know, it could be 10 years of living with those. And like I said, we're pretty good overall and relative to other counties for the number that we have posted, but... And then, like Dave's saying, that bridge up there by Hecla, to be honest with you, if it were to go closed tomorrow, I don't really have a plan to replace it, because it's long, and I have the exact same problem 2 miles north of Tacoma Park. There's one in there that's down to 11, and I'm not saying, oh geez, Dave, I got this problem everywhere. No, that's not what I'm saying, but they do create, they're going to be very expensive to replace. And
Is there any other alternative that you can put in there
there's the one thing that I've...
instead of the bridge?
Yep, there's few things I was looking at. Obviously, we can throw enough culverts in there to make it work, and then it's going to go underwater part of the year, and it's going to be like a little water crossing.
Yeah.
Getting the environmental part of that accomplished there, it was going to be a pretty...
Well, that's with any of them.
Sure. And then the same thing north of Tacoma Park. It's a bridge, or you had called me about one time, and I sent you some pictures of it. That's like an 11 or 12 ton bridge that's over the gym. Now, it's narrow there, it's a little the terrain's quite a bit different than the one you're talking about. And I have asked about low water crossings, and allegedly you can use the bridge program to build a low water crossing in there. But as you might guess as the name implies, part of the year it's going to be underwater, you know, in a wet year. So I don't have a super good answer for basically those two bridges, because they're huge and they're over the gym. And, you know, we just committed a couple million to build the one south of there. And so there's all those things when I look at them, it makes it harder. But if there's something in there that we can do that's reasonable, I'm not, you know, I don't really want to build another bridge right there from scratch.
Per se, don't blame you on that part of it, but that to me would be, you know, if there's a possibility of culverts in there, that would be the
way to go.
Because if that goes underwater there's a bunch of stuff west of there. The road's going to be underwater too. So,
right.
You know,
it wouldn't make that big a difference.
No.
And that's
And
actually
it's not an if it goes underwater, it will. At some point, we know
Sure.
the area, so.
Right. But that's the same, this other one that I'm talking about over the gym, it's the exact same thing. If you built a bridge in there, well, the west side of the thing's going to be underwater half the time, so you don't really need to build it any higher than what the ground is on the other side. So that's a nutshell. I mean, I can go through each of these bridges if you want to talk about my visions for 141
Did anybody else
structures,
have
but-
questions on specific areas of the plan? Yes.
What is is that Hecla Bridge listed on here?
Which one?
The one that we're discussing, yeah,
It's
the old one.
It's number 346. It's about halfway down on the colors.
Okay.
It's not colored. And that's one that, you know, that's what I'm saying. That would qualify for bridge money, but they're going to tell us we'd have to build like that.
Yeah.
But I think, I did ask them that question about the low water crossing. I just have to go through the process, and we'd have to hire an engineer. I mean, we're not going to they're not going to let the county go in there and slog in some culverts and call it a low water crossing and give us federal bridge money to do that. You know, we're going to still have to hire an engineer, and they'll design it all for us. But it's an option, and they got to see what the cost versus putting a bridge in there. Now that one, how long is that one? That one's
62
like
feet.
62 feet.
62 feet.
Yep. So that's not super bad. I mean, if we put one of those steel ones in there, you'd be looking at about 600,000 probably. Not too bad, only 600,000.
Well, and I gotta commend the highway department, because you guys have been good at tenacious about going after them, crunching the numbers, put whatever can qualify in there, because it doesn't matter which one we get funded, we can always filter then the local funds to something else. So whatever money can get us money from the state fed from, then we...
And that's what, I guess that's sort of what I'm saying is, for like using this Bridge 211 for an example, boy, when I started out 3 years ago, I would have never said we're going to run that through the bridge program. But now that I've learned more about the bridge program, and we can't get what we need, so we better just see about getting what we can get, and then you, like Rachel says, divert that money to the other ones that aren't going to qualify, but that we feel that we need, you know. So.
All right. Any other questions for Dirk?
Yes, sir.
68 there, south of Stratford. That's a kind of a narrow, you know, it's an old overhead bridge.
Yep.
Is anything will be done with that?
It's green, so does that mean culverts?
Yep,
going in?
it'll get culverts.
You don't know when?
Basically as quick as I can get the permits. So I would say we do 4 or 5 of those a year. So,
In a year or two?
yeah, I would say in the next year or
I
two.
think
Matter
it's a 3-ton bridge now,
I can't think, is that just a little pony truss? That just that little truss one?
yeah.
Okay, right next to a farm? Is there a
Yeah.
farm right there? Is
Yeah.
that your farm?
No.
Oh.
Well, east of there.
Oh, okay.
That's a more traveled road than that one you said down south on the Mud Creek there.
Yeah. That one's closed about half the year. Whenever I go by there, maybe, and that's a good trick, maybe just put up road closed sign, then people don't drive on them, but...
No, I'm talking about the one that you mentioned over there, it's straight south of there.
Right, yeah,
If
what
you
the...
bids and putting it in, then that's not really a traveled road.
that's a longer one that sits up a little
Cement
bit.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that, I don't know, did I highlight that one?
Mentioned it.
66. Yeah, see, that one I don't even have a color on it. It's just, we're just kinda hanging out until that one kinda forces its hand. But yeah, like that other one, that actually is at the top of the list, so I would guess
Oh, yeah, I
that,
didn't even see it up there.
Yeah, very first one.
Yeah, I was looking farther down.
but yeah, I would say these green ones will get done in probably the next 2 years, maybe.
The one on the South County line, do you get cost share with the adjoining county?
So, this one here?
Yep.
You know, we gotta hammer that out. If it were in Dickey County, yes. But,
You know, I'm just thinking for townships, I mean, we share,
right, it's different. It's a little bit different with us. When I first started, you know, you do the old space each other at the halfway point and everything to the right is yours. And that was all fine and dandy, and they were gonna take care of their bridges, and we're gonna take care of our bridges until the bridge over the Jim River got bad, and then Spink County kind of thought we should renegotiate the conversation, but, you know, that's a good question. We haven't done one on the county line
you know, it's,
since we were up here, so we'll have to see.
Where does the other counties come into it? Swamp County, isn't it?
Well, that's the northwest of Spink, it's just the last half mile that's fault, and then this road is fault.
Where does the county line between Falk and Edmonds?
That's right here. That's actually,
There's Edmonds County, there's Falk County.
right. It's right
Oh,
on.
that's,
It's on
you got
the-
three ways there.
Yeah.
Or four ways.
It would be, except there's a
Oh, I see.
correction line, so they don't quite match up.
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask Dirk, would you hang around outside a little bit in case anybody else has questions?
Yep.
Or did you have anything else you wanted to present to us?
Nope.
Okay. Well,
No.
Dirk, what's that?
No, I'm
Okay,
good.
well, Dirk will hang around a little bit if anybody has specific questions on their area. There's very few people I worry about keeping waiting, but the judge is one of them, and I don't want him to wait too long. So, appreciate everybody for coming, and next on the agenda, we've got Judge Porcher with us to discuss courthouse security. Are you with us, Judge?
Was.
Thank you so much for coming in. Sorry for making you wait.
No problem.
Thank you, Dirk.
Thanks, Dirk. Thanks for coming in, everybody.
Well, apparently they're here for highway, not courthouse security. You do not
have a fan club.
Anybody can stay. Anybody wants to stay.
Where do you want me to?
Right here is great. Thanks, Judge Porter. Appreciate you coming down. I know you're crazy busy too.
Boy,
so
we did clear the
We
room.
just thought it might be helpful to have a frank discussion about where we're at with security, what we can be doing to make it better, and in your guys' view, what you would like to see. I mean, what's the ideal, what would we like to do up there, do you think?
To me, the option that we talked about is you put a deputy in the courtrooms, or you secure the whole courthouse. And you know, we can have 3 circuit judges and a magistrate judge running at the same time. That's not uncommon for us to be having 3 or 4 judges going at the same time, and that just seems to be really difficult to do. To have a deputy in each one of those courtrooms.
A deputy in each courtroom?
And that's what the law says. The law says that the sheriff shall be present at the sessions of circuit court.
Okay.
We have 10 counties, of course, in the 5th Circuit. In 9 counties, we have one or multiple sheriffs or deputies present. Brown County is the only one where that's not the case.
Do we have court every day, Judge? In
Yeah.
all these 3 to 4?
Yeah, you know, it varies, and so my general answer is yes.
Okay.
There certainly can be times where, you know, for instance, there's the judges' conference, so, you know, they'll be gone all the judges will be gone for 2 or 3 days, you know, something like that. But I'm in Brown County pretty much every day. Judge Myron is usually here 2 to 3 times a week. Judge Summers goes to a couple other outlying counties. He's probably here 3 to 4 days a week. Judge Anderson is in the magistrate, you know, in the city building 4 days a week. And Judge Flemmer comes here generally once a week.
I'm just trying to get
Mm-hmm.
some hours and stuff. Okay.
There's almost always 2 circuit judges having court here at any one time, usually 3. But again, you can have a trial that's set for 3 days and then that goes away, you know, and are we able to fill in the time or not? You know, it's really dependent on what's going on.
Gotcha. Any other questions for Judge Porcher?
It's good info, thank you.
We have looked at locking down the courthouse, and it isn't the rearranging and putting in the metal detectors that's the issue, it's been the staff. You know, we're looking at between $250,000, $300,000 a year just to staff that, because we figure we need at least 5 full-time folks. So it's not that we're opposed to it, it's just where to find the money for that portion of it. Now, when you say a deputy in each courtroom, so are you talking anytime it's in session, designate one person to each courtroom is what you guys would like to see?
Yes.
Okay.
Could be up to 5 deputies in one day, the day Flemmer's there.
And if it's going to take, we figured that if you secured the courthouse and, you know, did a metal detector, that type of situation, you know, you probably have 2 people on duty at any given time. And of course, with vacations and all those things, you can't just have 2, you need more than 2. Well, if you're going to try to have even 3 deputies for the various courtrooms, I mean, then those people are also going to get sick and they're going to have vacations and they're going to do all those things. So, you know, that certainly is going to impact the budget. You know, and I guess from my standpoint, I know it's not without cost. I don't come in here and flippantly say, well, just make it happen, you know. But it's important, and for, you know, I've been talking about this issue for more than a decade, and I think the thing that finally kind of has resonated with some of the other judges is the fact that, you know, there was always this sort of attitude, well, if they're going to get you, they'll get you in the courthouse, or they'll get you in the parking lot, or they'll get you at home. Well, that's fine for the judge, but is the court reporter, do they make that commitment to? The clerk of court, the victim of domestic violence, all of their attorneys? I mean, we are the only ones who get to make the decision about the security. It affects every single person that walks in our courtroom. The spectators, you know, they're just as affected. If something goes down, they're just as likely to get hurt as we are. But we're the only ones that have the power to do anything about it. So we don't make the decision for ourselves. We make the decision for everybody. And I'm not going to flippantly say, well, they're going to get me in the parking lot anyway, because I'm not willing to put everybody else's security at risk.
So the concern when you're in court, is it weapons or what? I mean, basically, if these people have been screened prior to coming to court, they basically have just their manual power.
Right, and I think weapons is the biggest issue for me, because sure, I mean, the screening isn't going to prevent them from getting upset and start throwing punches or even flipping over chairs and that kind of thing. But there are certain things, I mean, I think you have some ability to hold them off in that situation. But, I mean, if it's a weapon, if it's a gun, of course, or even a fairly good-sized knife, what are you supposed to do about that? And I know our deputies would come running just as fast as they can, and they would try to do their best, but it would be all over but the shouting. I have a video on my phone I took 2 weeks ago. A guy's in front of the clerk of court's office with the garden shovel, a full 5 to 6 foot long garden shovel. Well, he was supposed to be here for court, and he was giving them some explanation about how he's homeless and he couldn't make it, and he wanted Judge Anderson to recall the warrant, etc., etc., as he's sitting here with a full garden shovel. You want to tell me that's not a weapon? I mean, that is 6 feet long with a big old metal end. If that starts swinging around, what are you going to do? You know, if someone's throwing punches, you have some ability. you know, hopefully they wouldn't be fatal, and you have some ability to
You could have
wait for the
days.
cavalry, you know, to come.
So if you had a deputy outside wanting the people going into the court systems, that would eliminate knives and guns, supposedly.
I would sure think so.
So, would that be an option? I mean, I realize now, naturally, guys coming in with a shovel, somebody's gonna see him long before he gets to the courthouse, because I mean, unless it's Halloween.
Right. But, yeah, you know, and we have different, you have 2 different floors and 3 different courtrooms, just in this building. So, you know, I don't know that they could just stand outside the courtroom, because there's so many access points. I mean, I think you have to have a pinch point that they've got to come
That'd be a
through.
detail that would have to be.
I think so.
So Doug, just to make sure I understand, are you saying like one full-time deputy that kind of is in charge of the courthouse, going from court to court?
Right, and with the, you know, with the wand to make sure that they got any metal weapons or knives on them, I mean, that's a precaution, you know, and I, you know, if somebody's got a bone to pick with the judicial system, they definitely could come in with a gun or knife, and it'd be nice to be able to control that somewhere along the line, whether you make a central point before they go to the 3 courtrooms or whatever it be. Then you're looking at hired maybe 2 people because of vacation and whatever it be. And then there'd be days that some judges aren't here, it depends on the calendar. I realize there's days there's busier than other days. That way those people could be flexed a little bit, you know, as hiring them, and I guess that's just a thought I have, is trying to eliminate.
But think about it too, from the standpoint, I can't remember what trial we were going to have. And they were concerned about something, there was a bunch of law enforcement up, and they're up there meeting in the 3rd East courtroom, and they're talking about all the things that they're going to do on the day of the trial. I said, well, if it's me, no one's up here today, I just go up there and put something in the corner somewhere, you know, tape it underneath the bench. Don't try to bring it in while there's security. You got to think ahead a little bit. It means the law enforcement officers look at me and said, well, you're kind of devious. Like, well, yeah, it takes a thief to catch a thief. I mean, you got to think like they think. I mean, you know, this guy in Las Vegas, of course, he had some planning. You know, he didn't just all of a sudden one day get angry and start doing this stuff. He thought about what it was he was going to do, and he planned it out, and he made these preparations and figured out how to inflict the most damage. And, you know, I don't want to be a wall plaque.
So part of the protocol would have to be doing a sweep of each of the courtrooms
Well,
prior to...
And what I guess my point there is that, you know, you just can't have a guy here and there going up, I mean, because if you say, well, we don't have court today, we're not operating it today, like if you had a metal detector, well, we're not operating it today, well, I mean, to me, I don't know if that makes sense then, because somebody could just come up and put something up there at that time. I mean, I think if you're going to do it, it's manned.
It almost has to be manned at the bottom of the steps where the entry come in, and the elevator's controlled every day.
That's right. That's what I think has to happen, because you know, you have the elevator and you have the stairs right there, and I think they've got to get past that point before they get to either one.
Starting early in the morning and then...
So in preference, there are some retired police officers that may be interested in part-time job like that. You as judges, do you have a problem if they're 68, 70 years old, if they're experienced police? I mean, I guess I'm just throwing that out there. Not that I want to be discriminative, but I mean,
Larry looking for you.
I mean, I think that's something that the sheriff has to help answer, you know, who's qualified to do this, you know, because the other aspect of having this pinch point where they come through and get screened is that, okay, that's also the person that's downstairs, so when you hit your button, who's the first person closest to the courtroom? You know, do they still have the ability to get up there and do what they need to do? And I'm not a law enforcement officer, so I'm not qualified to say this person passes or doesn't. I mean, I think the sheriff has to make that decision. But that's something to think about, that it wouldn't be just getting through the screening, you know, being the screener. That's the person who's, you know, when that alarm goes off, somebody's going to be heading up the stairs and are they willing to still to do that, or they're saying that's not what I signed up for?
Other questions? Well, 2 weeks ago, they finalized the 2018 budget, but I know this is on our radar, and so we have had conversations with the sheriff and seeing what we can do as far as from here on out until more funding becomes secure, and I think that was a good idea. See if we can't find somebody.
I have one question. So Judge, you're saying two options. The judges would like either a deputy in every courtroom, essentially at all times,
When court's in session, you know.
or have the pinch point, the one area else.
Right.
If they do a deputy in every courtroom, can we exclude when court's in session for somebody that's in custody, when the jail's already there, they're bringing somebody up that's already from a secure facility?
I don't think so, because that person is secured, but the court, we're still under a mandate to have the courts open at all times. So, is that, I mean, their family can still be there. It could be, you know, the victim's father could still be there. You know, we still have to, it's not just the defendant that's involved. And we tend to really gravitate towards the criminal defendant. That's where our mind goes. I mean, we don't know what, Judge Summers just had one in Redfield about, it was either a week or 2 weeks ago, where a guy had to be taken into custody, and there was a deputy there. That was over a divorce. So you don't know, is it a farmer whose land's getting taken away, getting repossessed because he's made some bad business calls, what have you? Is that what pushes him over? Probate fights, when siblings start fighting over mom and dad's money, get about as nasty, as you can, protection orders. We have this system in place where we say this person is not allowed to be within 300 feet of this person, and then we come and sit down about, 5 feet away from each other and have this hearing. Nobody's there. I issue the protection order and I say, yep, that's grounds, you can't be within a city block of this person, now you two sit right there while I fill out the paperwork. Happens every day. So we tend to think of the criminal cases and we go to that, but that's not mutually exclusive. I remember when I first started here when I was law clerk, drainage, water rights, one farmer draining on another farmer's land. Oh my, I thought at that time that was going to be the most likely shooting in the courtroom, was one person draining water on another person's land.
That was very violent at that time.
Oh man, people got hot when you had record snowfall, 96, 97, and so at that time.
This room was filled every Tuesday, wasn't it, man?
And they were all nice and calm.
Oh yeah, right.
Until they weren't.
Yeah, until they weren't. And it might be how many children that we've seen raped, and maybe it's their father or their grandpa who says, "What the hell? I'm 87 and I got cancer. I'm taking this scumbag out with me." But until the lead starts spraying around, and maybe the wrong person gets hurt. You're in an emotionally charged situation in a small room.
The reference was to the alleged perpetrator, not the judge.
Right, yeah. For the newspaper and the radio report. Or maybe they think we didn't do the right thing. Maybe we weren't tough enough. Maybe
and
they
we
are.
get that fear here too sometimes,
Or it's the state's attorney's fault because they didn't do something right or whatever.
It just boils down to money. And do you have any leeway in years that we could get some funding from the courts?
The one you would have to talk to is Susan Compon, who's a court administrator, and she would have the most information about whether or not there would be any kind of grants that we can access or anything. I mean, when we had this discussion earlier, I assumed that would have come up if that was
I think our line item is 7?
It's county money.
Right, but I just mean,
it's state money.
we've used some of the state money for the grants up there. I think some of that was cost
and then
sharing, the work we've already done up there.
The the federal government
Just someplace
sometimes
we
at
can cut
times
their
gives
county budget too, that
some
helps.
security grants or, but I
Worth
don't,
looking into.
it's not something that I am really involved in, so.
Sure. Well, your words aren't falling on deaf ears. We understand where you're coming from, and you got great points. And if there's something we can be doing, we're researching it, trying to figure out what the best way to do it is.
You know, it's, of course, you know, Larry was a judge for a long time. You go to these different conferences and things, and people just kind of say things, and, well, you just hand such and such to your bailiff. What's that? I mean, they talk about these things like you have all these resources, just use that person. And they, quite frankly, it might be the judge and the petitioner and the respondent. There might not be anyone else there, or court reporter. And we don't hire a ton of court reporters. I'm sure that, you know, they wouldn't be used as a shield very well, because I can look over at the top of all of them. They could get me even with the court reporters.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay.
So just to be clear, is wanting people before they go into the courtroom going to be satisfactory to the judge, or do you want somebody there the whole time? Because the courtrooms are open,
Sure.
and if somebody is standing outside the door to want everybody, if they're wandering off to do something else, then people are going to still be coming in. So you know, what is the minimum kind of situation that the judges would think would be a good first step?
I don't think the wanding issue, I mean, I guess when you say wanding, I'm thinking of a person kind of just going around and checking people, not going through like an actual security point. And I don't think that's going to work, because it's just so fluid. People are in and out of the courtrooms, and we can have basically a cattle call, juvenile court. I mean, there's just too many people around. I just don't, you know, there's just too much movement, so I don't see that being an option. I think we either have to post someone in the courtroom, or they have to go through a fixed security point, like a metal detector.
And if you have a deputy in the courtroom, you would want them armed.
Yeah?
Okay. So we're talking about certified law enforcement officers probably that would be allowed to carry weapons and that sort of thing.
Right.
I'm just trying to figure out, you know me, trying to figure out dollars and cents, and, yeah. It's gonna be about 300,000 there too a year, by the time we get all the benefits.
Now, you're never going to have the need of 5 deputies at one time, because you only have 4 courtrooms.
Right. No, I think somebody brought up the 5, and I think that's with vacation and downtime.
Because you're gonna have to have
sick
an
leave or
extra
whatever.
one.
Yeah, and I don't know, you know, how it goes, if you need 2 positions, how many you have to actually hire to fill the 2, you know, what the, how, you know, the formula to come up with the 5 or however many it is.
We need to win the lottery.
And as I said, please don't come away from this thinking I'm just being flippant about the money issue. Or I know you guys have budget constraints, but it's important. It's not a luxury. I think it's a necessity. And we can't just say, oh, we'll just have it for this case, for that case, because we don't know what case it is. And to me, the analogy is that's like deciding I'm going to wear my seatbelt for this trip or that trip. Well, we don't decide when we're going to get in an accident. It's an accident. And we wear a seatbelt all the time so that we're protected.
Okay. Well, any other questions?
Thanks for coming
Thank
over.
you so much.
for hearing me out.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Door open or shut?
Open,
Open
please.
would be great. Next on the agenda, just a little bit behind, we got Gary Nielsen and Charlie Coleman to discuss the bank erosion at Tacoma Park. Gary and Charlie?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good, fine.
Thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about bank erosion
Yeah.
And bridges.
and bridges.
Well, we're representing Tacoma Park. This is our president, board president, I guess. You want to start?
Yeah, we've got just an unbelievably severe erosion problem starting out there at the park on our west bank. And, I mean, you'd think this is nothing, major, natural, unusual, but before they installed that bridge on Brown County 13 by the park, we had not near the severe an erosion problem. And what we feel they did is when they put that bridge in, because of the way they put it in, the shortness on the east side, it created the channel of the river to deflect to the west side of the river, which the channel was mainly always on the east side of the river. And it just since that bridge was put in, our bank is just severely eroded. And we have some pictures
Here you can go through. These are pictures starting at the north by the railroad bridge, going toward the county bridge.
Okay.
And they're in kind of in order. And when you see a dark spot, that's a crack. It doesn't always show up in it.
Is each packet the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the same. I've got more than one.
Thank you.
You want it there. This bridge was installed, I believe it was about 5 years ago when it was put in. And when we talked to the company that was doing the bridge, they told us that they thought the bridge was not wide enough. The foreman and the workers and the main guy that come to start with, we had talked to him but we thought, well, it was kind of out of our, there's nothing we had any say over, really, on how the bridge was constructed or anything, because we're not engineers. But the result of what happened is kind of what they hinted that might happen, where it would deflect the channel of the river over and start eroding our west bank.
Yeah, before it, kind of the east part of the river was doing the eroding, and that was such a big problem. We had a road through there at one time that we lost because of the wind, but the stuff on the west side was pretty much intact. But at my place out there, cabin, I've lost a little over 2 feet in the last 2 years, so it's taken about a foot a year.
It's getting so it's to the point of it's fragile on that west bank. I've been out there 30 years, and it's never been near this bad. It seems like more of a slow.
You used to be able, you could get down to the river. It was like a slope, pretty steep, but I mean, you could get up and down. Now in many areas, it's pretty much, and it's getting undermined, so
it's gonna underwash, creating jetties and stuff.
Did you guys have somebody haul some material along the shore there, build kind of a berm recently? All down the shore there?
On the west side there?
Yeah, we did after the initial flooding.
Well, there's been some spots there where each individual have been, well, okay, we're losing, so we'll chuck some rocks and bricks or whatever in there just to keep it. I know in front of my place, it looks a little unsightly when the water's low and there's no weeds and stuff, but I put some big heavy blocks in there from like sidewalk because it was starting to really cut in,
you know. And this all, like I said, is transpired just since that bridge was put in. And what we're wondering is what we can do. I mean, we're not real, it kind of sounds like we're putting blame, you know, but I mean, do you blame the engineer, do you blame the, you know, construction worker, you know, how they put it in, or you know, really, who would you blame for it? But we want to remedy the problem.
I mean, we were left with a fair amount of expense when they put the new bridge in, and the road was so sloped, it was like a ski lift, you know, so we had to start filling that in. Then the county did come in and filled in to their easement, and then they stopped, so then we had to fill all that back into the park so you could get out of there.
Is that what it's been, Dirk, 5 years?
That one was, I remember building up I can remember building the approach on the north side, right across from their road, shortly after I came back, so.
Well, you weren't involved, I think, when the bridge
No,
was
when
built.
not when it was built. If there was something that was wrong, we would approach the engineers, and the hydrology would be, you know, if we were looking for investigating, if there was some remedy to it, that's, you know.
We
I
checked.
remember a discussion about that.
Well, what's happened with a lot of the new bridges is the analysis that you go through to determine how long it's going to be isn't the same that was used 50 years ago. And we run into this a lot where the bridges are actually shorter. I can think of 3 of them off the top of my head that are actually shorter than what they replaced, because to meet the minimum requirement for the bridge funding, you're probably designing it to a 100-year flood event, and in the old days, they built the bridge where they needed it, or their perception or whatever the analysis at the time told them, and in some cases, they were actually overbuilt hydraulically by today's standards. So that's kind of why, in general, now I'm not anywhere to even begin to be qualified to speak to the hydrology or what effect the bridge has on that, but that's the scenario that we come up with where bridges are shorter, and most guys around here that live close to the river or are egg producers close to the river know exactly how damn long the bridges are and when that changes. So that's a little something as to why the length of the bridge might have changed. And the other thing I'd be real cautious about is the contractor who, outside of what's in the plan, has absolutely no legal responsibility, so I'd be real cautious about...
Well, we're not...
You know, but no, I understand that, but about, you know, how far you take what they tell you to.
Yeah.
Do you think the new bridge diverted the erosion from the east side over to the west side? You don't think there's as much erosion going on the east side anymore?
No.
There, you know, there was always some, but it was a straight channel, you know, and then now it's really minimal on that side.
How much longer is that bridge than the old one, Dirk? Do you have any idea at all?
It would be shorter.
It's
Oh, it'd be
shorter.
Yeah. If I had to take, oh gosh, I shouldn't even say it. We're talking probably 10 to 15 feet, and I'm totally spitballing there without looking, but that's a number I remember from the other times that's occurred.
Yeah, and we checked with the James River
Water
Development for funding, and they do some matching funding. So they want us to get a couple estimates. We're in the process of doing that. We did have one kind of burn, and they said, well, if you rip-wrap the north or the east side and the west side in the park, you're looking at about $1 million. Well, there's no way, you know, if you do a cost sharing that we can come up.
But we can possibly get grant money for half of that, but then we'd be responsible for the other half. But we could use any, legal means to get that other half.
Is this looking north on the west shore? And this is the bridge up here in the distance? How many people live along there?
Well, there's 2 per year-round residents, but then there's another dozen that frequent more seasonal, or just weekend type thing.
You know, normally there's so many hoops you have to jump through when you do those bridges. They would have thought of some of this stuff before they allowed us to do it.
How far south is the erosion? I mean, is it
It's-
starting just south of the bridge here?
It's not as bad, it starts right there, right where you can see where the ripraps ended.
Yep.
Right there. It's clear down, all the way down, and
All
it
the way
gets
down.
more severe the further south you go.
Oh, okay.
Because the river kinda, it's not perfectly straight.
Right.
It kinda is kinda like a banana, a little bit like that. So as soon as it gets, then it really it's starting to, take that, I don't know, you wouldn't call it a peninsula, but it's kind of just, it's starting to really eat in that. It's chewing it up pretty good. According, you can see these
There isn't anything on the
pictures.
south end that would have affected this, that something blocked or somebody changed something on the south end where the river diverts down?
Oh, you mean like the next bridge is a railroad bridge. It's like 1,800 feet, a little over 1,800 feet from the highway bridge to the railroad bridge.
But nothing's changed on that end that it would have caused this?
No. I mean, they're working on a railroad bridge now because they're using it. And that, but they're not really changing the structure. I think they're just shearing up here and there and putting some riprap in or whatever they're doing. And that.
Well, you'd almost expect the riprap that's on the north side of the bridge here, on the northeast side, you would think that if that was diverting this water, it would, this is where your erosion would be the strongest, because that's where the current would hit. It's surprising that it's
It
farther
just keeps
south.
going down.
Yeah, because that flow should hit here
Yeah.
and then straighten out again. It's-
Yeah, you'd think it would.
See, they used to have that deep hole there, I think it was 20-some feet deep.
It was over that, I think, they had just on the the northeast side there, where you can see there's a bluff.
Yep,
That's
right
really eroding away. There's a picture in here on that too.
Right.
And just below that, just before you got to the bridge, there was just a humongous hole
On the north side?
on the north side. I mean, there was just a monstrous hole there. And that kind of, whether it slowed or whatever, the flow down or whatever like that. But they filled that completely in with rock. And that's so they did away with that hole completely. And that probably eventually would have been a structural thing. I mean, something that, but, and I think the old bridge had 2 pillars, They had 2 pillars. The new bridge has 1 single pillar in the middle. So maybe with a design change and everything,
But is the county capable of, or can you legally do dump busted concrete or something into the river to help shore that up?
You can legally if you have a permit. I mean, the concrete's not a problem if it doesn't have rebar in it.
Mhm.
But, yeah, you gotta go through a permitted process.
Because that's something you guys have access to, when the big, busting up concrete or...
It's like anything, you lose a lot. It's awesome to recycle concrete, but if you gotta haul it 50 miles to recycle it, there's no value in it, so.
Now, does the county do any riprap besides the easements, or?
No, I mean, what you're describing, if it's, first off, it's not on any county property,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would need to get permits to put the fill in there, and cross your fingers that they don't make you mitigate somewhere, because then you'd have to go create a wetland somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
When it pertains to a road, a lot of times it's included in their general permit. I don't know on this kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
if it's looked at the same way, you know what I mean, as rip-rapping along the road or not.
Okay.
Any other questions? That's a tough one. That probably isn't gonna, make the bridge program anytime soon to redo it.
I've got a cabin that's only about 20 feet from the river on the west side. I'm the closest one to the river. I'm losing a lot of bank fast.
Any idea the last 5 years? Have you noticed the surface, like, measured or at all?
No, but I usually have quite an angle going down. No, it's almost straight down.
Well, you can see, well, even on just this one picture here, it's kind of, these are a lot markers for the lots along the riverbank. And they were usually about 2 feet in from where it started going down, and now it's falling in with the, well, this is dangerous here too. You don't really know how bad these crevices are, and that, and so, yeah, it used to be, had a nice taper. I mean, you could walk down with help, now it's, it just cut right off. And the bad part, like on this west side, is back when they put a lot of these cabins in, you redo a cabin, like Sid's cabin there, you leave it in the same spot it was. Well, now they're too close to the riverbank, just from the years of, normal erosion and that. So it's getting to be we're kind of pretty worried about this situation.
So you own up to those lot lines then. In most cases, whether it be on lakes or whatever, people riff-raff on their own. Do they have to get permits when they own that, down to that water, Dirk? I mean...
Well, in theory, you can't put fill into a water of the U.S. There's probably a threshold, and I can't, we're usually always over the threshold. I think it's 1/3 of an acre or something. But my experience is if you throw something in the river and they don't have a permit, you're going to hear about it, But
if
yeah,
you're putting rock in, a couple loads of rock to protect your shoreline, and
And still the river changes course.
I guess that's where you'd have to find out if you'd legally be able to do it, because I don't know if we as a county have any authority on that part.
Yeah. Because I know I've been told, that you don't just rip-rap one side, you rip-rap both sides. The river, that way it doesn't change the course of the river. And then you rip-rap one bank and then it's gonna chew on the other bank and that, but,
So the water development, James River, said they would partner. They might.
yeah, we just need to get a couple bids in, and then they will file for assistance.
But
but that's only for half of it.
$1 million proposition to take, 20,000, that's about the most they give out at one time here.
Right.
And then we gotta come up with 20,000 a year to match it.
Break it into smaller projects.
Yeah, so.
Well, we were looking at possibly doing the worst first, where it's really bad, that's really affecting them, the residents, and go from there in a stage. But whether that's a wise way to do it, I don't know. Because we're not engineers, so we don't know it. We'd be doing more damage than that, so. Well, we just want to make sure, everyone's aware of, there is a problem, and we're trying to, do something about it.
Well, I appreciate the pictures and the heads
Is there any
up. Take a look.
alternative to rip-rapping that you know of, that you could do something else?
You're saying for stabilizing the bank there?
More concrete over the bank?
Rip-rapping's the easiest and quickest. There's actually all kinds of, you could put sheet piling along there, but you're gonna lose your natural waterway thing, and it's gonna start looking like a port or something.
It looked like an aqueduct or something.
Yeah, but sheet piling will stop it. The bad thing about that is if it overtops the sheet piling, as it sure as heck can there, then, you know, you're kind of trapping it back on that, where it's saturated already by the looks of it. There's other things you could, I mean, if you want to get real crazy, there's things you can inject into the soil. But again, unless you're going to do all of it, even if you did the first 5 feet and you had high water, it's going to affect behind there, you know. So, but yeah, riprap's about the easiest and quickest. There are other things if you want to get way outside the box, but again, you're messing in the river, and I'm guessing you guys are in a floodplain on your side. Probably.
That's in floodway.
Yeah, so that's even worse, a floodway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
Okay.
You could go knock the dam out in the back there and let her drain, and then you wouldn't have quite the problem.
Yeah.
Don't tell us when you do it. It'll make the middle of the night like that.
You have to build a road to it.
Yeah, I know, getting back, it's come into the helicopter. But you're pretty safe with that, we don't have access, so.
We went through that already.
Yeah, I know.
Well, thank you for your
Well, thank you
time.
for the heads
Yeah,
up.
coming in.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wish we had a better solution here for you.
Well, we just, you know, wanted everyone to be aware there is a problem there, and then
They can leave those here.
we'll just leave these.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great one. All right, that brings us to the end of the regular agenda. We'll go to Maxine's list.
Minutes from October 3rd.
Motion from Hanson, second from Sutton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claims?
Moved by Feldheim,
Second.
second from Hanson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
HR
Motion carries.
report?
Move.
Moved by Sutton,
Second.
second by Hanson. Was there any discussion on, because did we have, where Chris Hewens going in there?
That's going to attorneys.
Okay, is that what you guys wanted?
That works.
Okay, I will be saying no on that one then. I think we could use him in our planning department because we are far behind there, so.
Is it an option that he stay there all winter, or is there someplace he could split between planning and zoning and you guys, or doesn't that work at all for you? I mean, if he worked mornings one place and maybe afternoons, or just, is there some kind of option just to split a little of his time? Because where I would go with that is Scott's got some issues that he's backlogged and getting some things done, much like you do with your scanning. I guess I'm wondering, is it possible that they can be shared just a little bit? I'm not saying,
I don't think he'll get the scanning done, but my thought was if he does get the scanning done, I didn't know there was need anywhere else. I thought that would hold us off on having to come to you folks and asking for part-time help.
I appreciate
An
that.
assistant. I thought we could use Chris to get the legal assistants caught up on stuff. Since he's already getting paid by the county, I figured that would be the best use of resources. But what I would tell you is if we don't get to use him exclusively, I'll probably be coming to you asking for that
Okay.
at some point here in the near future.
And I don't know if there's any room in Vader's office for anyone else either.
Then we might have to look for somebody to help with that floodplain information, doing the ordinances with the CAFO that we said we'd look into, and some of the other stuff in the other office. I'm not saying
But
that we
that's-
need to take it from there, but I'm saying there's needs other places.
That's gonna
as well.
take at least a year or so before.
And we did delegate $10,000 in our budget for the comprehensive plan that Northeast Pump was gonna be helping us with, and that's another area we gotta give them some direction, so.
And on our end, something to think about is that at the first of the year, we still have that part-time spot that will be budgeted. Because it's in the budget that we won't be using, so.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Nay.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Aye for Doug.
Yes. Aye for me.
Okay. Claim assignment?
I'll move them.
Moved from Sutton,
Second.
from Hanson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Quarterly interest statement from the treasurer?
Move.
Moved from Feldheim,
Second.
second from Sutton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And that's all I have. Oh, wait a minute, yeah. Surplus property. Edmonds County called and they're interested in 2 of our old auto marks. And we've got plenty if you wanna declare them surplus for donation to Edmonds County.
Are any other counties in need, or have?
They might be, haven't heard from anybody, but,
Would it be smart to just declare them all surplus so that if we were approached,
well,
or?
I want, some of them will trade for the express boats.
Okay,
Yeah, so
so just declare
those
two
15,
surplus?
yeah, 15 will go as trade-in on the
Oh,
express
okay.
boats,
Okay.
and these two would be an outright donation to Edmonds County.
That's the only other two we have left after they...
No, there's another 10, 12.
Oh, okay. So we'll just handle them on a case-by-case basis,
Yeah.
or?
Do I have a motion to declare those surplus? Moved by Hanson,
Like,
seconded by Feldheim. All,
that'd be just two.
just two of them. Well, whatever it is, two. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, we got that ordinance.
Yeah, I didn't really hear back on the draft.
Did everybody, yeah, everybody's got it signed off on. Was there any questions on that?
See, it was my understanding that you took one of the bullets out, went from 4 bullets to 3 bullets.
Yes, we did.
And so that bullet is out of there, and I just wanted to confirm that
Do you
that
remember
was...
which bullet it was?
Talking about the commission, it was a duplication of what was more of an enhancement.
Was the last sentence.
Yeah. So that's on that one.
Dwayne brought up.
Yeah.
It's saying the same thing that was already said, I think, in the
Yeah.
second bullet or something, if I remember it.
Okay. Is there a motion on that,
I'll move
notice
it.
of the hearing? Motion from Sutton,
Second.
second from Feldheim. Any questions on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
And if you do have amendments, you can do that at the first reading. Just
This
advertise.
just advertises
Yeah.
the public hearing.
I need a motion for the 5-year plan.
I'll move it. Move from Hanson,
Second.
second from Sutton. Questions on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, Gary, anything for us?
No, I'm good this week.
Okay. Larry, Chris? Anything from the commissioners in attendance?
I would request executive session for personnel, please.
Okay. We've got a motion.
We have a
on the floor.
2-minute break first.
Yeah. Is that a
Second.
Okay. Motion from Sutton, seconded from Feldheim for executive session on personnel. 2-minute break prior to. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you. See you guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Chris.
Chris. No action, right?
No action.
All right, we are back from executive session. No action as a result. Anything else that anybody had?
I'll move to adjourn.
Motion from Sutton to adjourn for
Second.
second by Hanson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll be adjourned till next week.
No action, Sutton, Hanson.
Okay, thanks.
And I'm trying to arrange a meeting between Cliff